Well, hello and welcome to From the Deep End. I'm Jonathan Jenkins. Good to be with you here today, once again, as we continue our study of the book of Galatians together. We are in chapter 3. We'll be over there in just a second. Welcome to the show, everybody. For those who don't know, we're here at the Rockledge Church of Christ in Rockledge, Florida. Here is my office. And we're here, as I said, Tuesday, Thursday. We do a Bible study together. Been in Galatians for the entire life of this program so far. But you can find us on the digital Bible or the Rockledge YouTube and Facebook pages. You can also find us on a series of pages I run personally for a digital Bible study. That's on our Facebook, YouTube, and X pages over there as well. So find those links and all that in the description of the video you're currently watching. And we'd love to have you as a member of as many of those channels as you see fit to do that. But having said all that, let me just say good morning to all of y'all, David and Mercy and Arlene and Tammy and Shauna and Jenny. Good to have y'all here with us today throughout the program today. Do keep the comments right up there on the screen. Try to make those visible to you. And I do try to pay attention to them throughout the program. So if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and put them in. To the best of my ability, I'll try and get to them as we work through the show. Any Bible question, feel free to go ahead and put it in. Anything that is loosely Bible related is more than fine to put in. Obviously, if it's on Galatians and it's on the topic we're discussing, that's helpful. But if it's not, I have been known to go down a detour every now and again to get off topic. So feel free to be the cause of my getting off topic at any point you'd like to, because everybody else will appreciate that. But never mind, whatever it is, just feel free, put your comments in there. Love to see it. Love to hear what your thoughts are as we study through. And frankly, if I'm just talking about something that doesn't make any sense to you, let me know. We'll try to cover it as best I can to get you in a good position. Because what I want you to learn how to do is study your Bible. And that's I tell people all the time when I'm teaching the Bible, I'm not after your agreement. Now, I think you should agree with me because, strangely, the thoughts that are in my own brain, I think they're right. That's the way I think most people are. Normally, that's the way you think about that. So I think the position I'm talking to you about is the right one. However, my goal here is not after you, is not your agreement. What I want is your understanding. I want you to understand why I believe what I believe. I want you to understand, more importantly, how I got to that conclusion, the process, the steps that you go through to break down a biblical text and learn how to study, the discipline it takes, the skill set that it takes. That's what I want you to get. Okay. And that to me is so much more important than, because that empowers you as a Bible student. That allows you to go out and do what you need to do with it. But that to me is more important than the number of verses that we cover in a day, or even the particular topics that we're covering. I want you to learn how to study your Bible, because, frankly, it doesn't take scholarship. Now, people who are academics and the scholars and all those people kind of want to act like it does, because that strangely puts them in a position of power, puts them in a position of influence. It makes them needful. And we could go down a spiritual discussion about that, but that's kind of a part of human history. Pretty much everybody does that at some point. But it's really not. It doesn't really take that. Your English translations are very good. Every now and again in the Greek, or I would assume the Hebrew. I know almost nothing about Hebrew, but there occasionally you'll come across a good argument, a good observation at the very least, that comes out of the original languages. But your English translations, take them as a collective. Take all the major English translation families: King James, American Standard, Revised Standard, NIV. Those pretty much the families. There's a lot of sub translations from that. But you take that collective, you have a very good collection. I mean, we sometimes talk hard about different translations, and I have my preferences. But frankly, if you read the preface and understand what each of those translations and translational families are trying to do, the least favorite of mine in that family is the NIV. I don't think its translational philosophy is great, but I'll tell you this: for the translational philosophy that the NIV has. I've got a couple of complaints with it, but it is actually an excellent translation for what it's trying to do. And so you take the English translations collectively. Listen, the number of actual scholarly people that know something about Hebrew or Aramaic or Greek that actually might tell you something that is revolutionary, that is enlightening, beyond the combined scholarship of the translational committees that put together the families, those translational families, King James, American Standard, Revised Standard, NIV. I would throw the ESV into the Revised Standard family. That guy that you're watching on YouTube today, who is acting like he knows something about Greek, he knows nothing in comparison to those translational committees. When you take the collective scholarship behind English translations, they're excellent. Okay, the translations are excellent. Every now and again, you'll find something. Like my big complaint about most English translations, we've talked about it in this class, the capitalization of the word spirit. Okay, that's my one major complaint about on the topics that we've been covering. That's my one major complaint. But I understand it. If I was in the translational room having that discussion with whatever subcommittee I was on dealing with Galatians 3, yeah, that'd be a long conversation we'd be having, because there's not much in the Greek text that will tell you whether or not the word pneuma, translated spirit, should be capitalized or not. So while I would disagree with the fact that they did, what they did is understandable. Still a really good translation. They just had to make a choice. They had to make not an expositional choice. They had to make an interpretive choice. Okay, I can live with that. Point being, to be a good Bible student, to get back on topic, to be a good Bible student, you just need to know how to read your Bible. That's really it. Okay? Not saying that other study tools aren't useful. They are. We'll use them in this class. We do use them in this class. They're useful. But if your conclusion causes you to absolutely contradict the English translations, the collective English translations that we have, you really ought to rethink that. You really ought to be careful before you do that. Okay? Because the translations are excellent. Taken collectively, especially, you need to know what each one is, as I said, but they are excellent. Anyway, that's off topic. That's my first deviation of topic, and I didn't even get to the class yet. So there you go. Take that for what it's worth. Arlene asked, what Bible program do you use? Yes, Arlene, I use Logos. That's it right here. There you go. But obviously y'all have seen it before, but that is Logos. Okay. And it's great. It is great. They have switched to a subscription model, which they say, it used to be you had to buy it. And then I think they're on Logos version 10, and every couple of years they'd come out with a new version. I've had it for, when did I start using Logos? 2010, 11, somewhere around in there. I was working at Katy, so that had to be between 2010 and 2013. So let's just call it 2011 maybe. I started using Logos. Before that, I used eSword. My first Bible program that I used at length in any kind of detail was eSword. Now, last time I checked, eSword still exists. Let me. I think it's still there. Let me bring that up. I haven't. It's been a long time since I logged into eSword. Yeah, there it is. Let me put it over here where you can see it if you don't know see it at all. Oh, I need to put it on the screen now. Hold on, give me a second. There it is. That's eSword. Okay. I'm assuming it's still free. Yeah, it is absolutely. Can you see it? It's probably just way too small. Let me see if I can blow that up without messing things up too badly. eSword is a free Bible program. You get, unless they've changed, I say they, way back in the day, eSword used to be one guy's personal ministry. That's what he did. And this goes back. I mean, it's one of the earliest Bible programs that had any kind of lingering life to it. And it has expanded over time. It's very good. It's not as, again, I haven't used it extensively in a lot of years. I used it a couple, 3-4 years ago for something I don't remember, but it's not as detailed as Logos is, but it is very good, and it has a lot of free. Let's see what it's got here. Downloads. The download, it's free, and when you get it, it is essentially fully functional. So all of the functions of eSword are there, basically for free. Now the guy does still take donations. I assume it's still the same guy, unless that guy's got to be. It's got some years in him. I don't know the history at this point. And it does come with. It tells you right here. Basic installation. It contains the King James with strong numbers, Strong's Dictionary, Smith's Bible Dictionary, some devotional things, treasury, scripture knowledge, cross references. That's useful, and then a few other things. There are also some other free resources inside of it. So it's good. I mean, it's actually very good. Assuming it's still good. I used it for a lot of years before I got to Logos. Now it does have things you can buy. So if you want, I don't think that's listed in the, maybe it's under the extras. Any chance? Nope, not under extras. It's not under, is it under features? No, it's not under features, but there is a list of books. I think you may have to download it and see what books are available. But unless it has completely diminished, and from the looks of it, that picture right there looks right. That looks like about the same user interface that I knew. Okay, excellent resource, and it is 100% free to use in its full functions. But Logos is a lot more intricate. It allows for a lot more stuff, and the subscription service now is the base subscription. It's not much. It's like $9 or $10 a month if I remember correctly, which gives you effectively. There are different levels of functionality, but for the average Bible student, the base subscription will give you all the functionality that you need. In fact, while we have been doing this class, I don't know that I have used any functionality for this class that would go beyond what the base subscription for Logos would give you. The upside to Logos, if you have the money for it, is the library that is available. There's no library. There's one. What's it called? Somebody help me here. It's not accordion. I think it starts with an A. Hold on. What's the other one? And what's the competitor of Logos? Is accordance. Accordance. That's what it is. Can I get just the? Give me a second here. There you go. If this would be the primary competitor of Logos right now. I've never used it. I've heard good things about it. I've heard people really, really like it, but I've never used it because I went to Logos, and effectively they are the same thing. So if you have the funds, Logos or Accordance, they work out very similarly, and the collection of the library of books that are available on Accordance, I don't think it. I'm doing this off the top of my head here. I don't think it quite measures up to what's available in Logos, but it is excellent. It has more than you'll ever need. I don't know the exact parameters, but I think Logos has been around longer and is bigger. But it is what it's good. Okay. From everything I've ever heard about it, it's good. So that would be the other option to Logos. If you want a base Bible program, as I said, I'd go with eSword still. It's a very good, useful tool to help you study. All right. But yeah, I use Logos, and my library that I have, I've got a pretty healthy library now at this point, because they've sucked money out of me once a year for 15 years. Okay. But truth be told, 97% of my library that I have, I don't use, other than just when I do a search and it brings up all the different stuff. But honestly, that's no different than my library. I mean, what you see behind me right here, this is now my book library. I used to have a library that filled up two rooms in my office, because when I was at Katy, I had my office had 2 rooms in it, and one of them was a library, and it had shelves everywhere, and I filled up that room with books. I eventually got rid of them all because over the years I collected a whole bunch of books that frankly I wasn't using, because that's what happens. Preacher, somebody at the church has got a book. Oh, the preacher like that book, and they give you a book. You know how many times I've been given books over the years? Do you know how many of those books I've read? Shh, don't say that out loud. But you end up with a huge collection of books. 97% of them you never use. They're decorations that hang on the shelf. Okay, well, I've got that on my hard drive too. Most of the books for Logos that I haven't downloaded. I have them. They're in my library. I just don't have them stored on my computer because I don't need them. But it's nice to have them. So when I do a search, Logos like that finds any reference to any remark about the source that I'm after. So anyway, you didn't want all that, but there you go. That's what I use as Logos. In terms of if you're somebody who's willing to spend a little money, and like I said, I have lost track because it's been close to 15 years now, and every year I spend $100 here, $200 there, whatever. So they've probably made $3,000 or $4,000 off me pretty easily. And now they're making. I have the higher subscription. I forget what I paid. I did an annual thing. I don't even remember what it is now. It's an annual. It's a little bit over $100, I think, to do the annualized thing. There's a discount when you do the annual. So they're making, I don't remember, $150 a year off me right now. So $10, $12 a month, I guess. I'm guessing at that. I don't remember exactly. But it is denominational run. And so let me show you this. When you if you use Logos, when you first bring it up, they've changed things on me. How do I actually get the home screen? There it is. Hey, I figured out how to do it. Okay. If you just log into the home screen on Logos, you get a whole bunch of, some of them they're trying to sell you stuff. They're sitting there, and they'll tell you about the deals that they've got. But there are also some tips and study things that you can help with, that kind of stuff. But that's what you start. When you go that. Now, once you start using it, that's not the screen that pops up. Well, I've got it set so the thing that pops up on my screen is just the last thing that I used. And so when I open Logos, that's what shows up on my screen. Okay, because that's the last time I used the program. That's what I had open, and so that's what pops up. So it's got a lot of features, and they're very helpful. So anyway, let's get to the class. But as I said, you got a comment, got a question, feel free to go ahead and put it in. I am glad to go off script whenever the opportunity presents itself. But let's turn our attention now to our actually study for today. Who else? Nita, good to have you here this morning. I think that's everybody. I think I said hi to everybody. I think I got Jenny in there as well, but good to have you all here today. All right, let's turn our attention now to our study. We were covering verses 16 down to 18 last time we were together. We got in a little bit of 19, and frankly, as I said at the close on Tuesday, I actually kind of skipped down, and we covered a little bit of 21 and 22, and that's where I would like to get back to pretty quickly here in the actual study. We talked about verse 19. Why then the law? It was added because of transgressions. We talked about the meaning of that. And it's let's try not to go back over all that material. I'm sorry, because I don't really want to go spend, because we spent, I don't know, a good hour talking about that concept. Compared it to Romans chapter 3, Romans chapter 4. Let me just do it this way, okay? If you want the full discussion of that, you're going to need to go back and watch Tuesday's class, because I'm really trying my best not to go back over all that same material again. I will, though, because I'm going to use that material, that portion of that material again in this class. Let me kind of transition from that to what I want to talk about, or what I need to talk about, just by again asking you the question that we asked 100 times on Tuesday, and you're about to get it. This one I'm going to repeat, and I don't apologize for that, because you're about to get it 100 times more today. Okay? And that question is simply, you should know the question right now, is what is the other option? Okay, that's the question you have to ask and answer, and you got to get it right. And I'll tell you what the right answer is in the writings of Paul, especially every time that question comes up. There's one right answer. There is one right answer. I mean, there are a couple of times Paul is writing about paganism. He's writing about the life of the Gentiles, that kind of stuff. Even in Galatians, he'll talk about the life you lived as a Gentile. When we get to Galatians chapter 4, he's going to talk about the life they lived as Gentiles. Yeah, that comes up. But the vast majority of times, guess what Paul's talking about? Well, he's talking about the Judaizers. That's what he's talking about. All right? And that is what he's talking about here. All right? He's talking about in dealing with the time that he wrote. He's dealing with the Judaizers. We talked about that at some length. How they slanderously were charging against Paul that he was allowing too much sin, and that if they would just follow the law properly, they would get rid of transgressions and so on. And effectively, the shot that Paul is making, I think I used the analogy. I think I said the first time it was a shot across the Judaizers' bow right here, and then I said, no, it's not a shot across the bow. It was a torpedo under their waterline to sink their ship. Okay, the point that Paul is making is the law that you tell us will, as I said, I wasn't going to cover this material. Here I go. But the law that you said, if we obey it properly, it will perfect the flesh. Okay, we will be made perfect by the flesh. How are we going to get the flesh perfect? By following the law. We are going to rely on the works of the law. And Paul makes the point that the law itself came because of transgressions. And guess what it didn't fix? It didn't fix transgressions. It had to make provisions, actually, for what happens when there are all kind of transgressions under that law. Okay, the very thing that they thought Paul needed to admit was there as the solution to a problem with sin. Paul points out that no, it was added because of transgressions, but guess what it didn't fix? It didn't fix transgressions, okay? Now, that's the transitional thought to get us down to this phrase highlighted in green. Well, when I click on it, it's highlighted in blue. But this phrase right here highlighted in green, if a law had been given that could give life, okay? That is going to be the transitional statement, or the statement that follows. It was added because of the transgressions. And the question I'll ask and answer once again with the same answer is, what's the other option? Okay, he's arguing against Judaistic theology, all right? So that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time here today in verses 21 and 22, all right? But there's a phrase or two here that I at least want to highlight before we move down, because I didn't get to them at all on Tuesday, all right? Now, they are both interesting and they are at least a little bit transitory in terms of moving Paul's argument against the Judaizers forward, all right? He says, asking the question about the law, he says it was added because of the transgression until the offspring should come to whom the promise had been made. Of course, that offspring is Jesus. The promise had been made. That's what we go back here. The promise was made to Abraham there in verse number 18, but that the promises were made to Abraham and to his offspring. Okay, that's verse number 16. So that's what we talked about there on Tuesday. Abraham and Jesus, that's who it's made to. Obviously came first to Abraham, because there's Abraham, but Paul makes the point that the offspring there is Jesus, singular, not plural. It is not to many, not to the Israelites, but rather it is to Jesus. Okay, that's the promise. And that the law was to be there until the offspring should come. There, of course, is Jesus. So the law was always intended to be fulfilled, not to be abolished, not to be destroyed. We looked at Matthew 5. It wasn't. But then Paul makes an additional statement about it, okay? He says the law was put in place through angels. Now, I'm not going to stop here for long, because when you read the Exodus account, well, we need to start probably no earlier than 14. But let's just start in 20. Okay, you may want to go back to 17, 18 and read some of that to get you there. But start in 20. Giving of the Ten Commandments there in 20. Who gave the Ten Commandments? Well, God did. God gave the Ten Commandments. Okay. Paul makes an interesting statement here. Okay. He says it was put in place by angels. You need to read that carefully, because Exodus, I don't think, as I was thinking about this verse for this class, I didn't thumb through all of Exodus, but I don't think Exodus makes a reference to angels being present on Mount Sinai. Sounds like it's God with Moses. Okay. Paul affirms that it's angels here, gets you to Acts 7, says that statement. Hebrews 2 says that statement. It was an Old Testament reference. My mind's going blank. One of the minor prophets. Where is it? Does Hebrews 2 is declared by angels? No, that just gives me Acts 7:53. Acts 7:53, delivered by angels. Deuteronomy can't be Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 32, 30. That's not the verse I was thinking of. The Lord came from Sinai. He dawned on Mount Seir, from Seir upon us, and so forth. Came with 10,000 of his holy ones with flaming fire at his right hand. Okay, you could take that as angels. That's not the verse I was thinking of. Not Psalms, is it? Not Daniel. Can't be Daniel. That's just 10,000. Okay, there's a verse I'm thinking of. I don't think it's Psalm 68. That does talk about 10,000s and uses Sinai. Thought there was a verse. I want to say it was one of the minor prophets. I'm sorry, my mind's going. I may have made this one. I may have made up. I may have made this Bible verse up. Wouldn't be the first time I've done that. But nevertheless, it is significant. This Paul is making a statement here that the Jews would have known. Okay, we don't, because sometimes we just read Exodus and it says God, and that's the image that we have: God and Moses on Mount Sinai together. Okay, not that that's incorrect. However, the rest of the Bible, as it elaborates on that topic, the passages we just went to, and the one I've made up in my mind, it's got to be one of the minor prophets. It's got to be. Okay, I got to move on. Because it's not going to come. It'll come to me after the class is over. That's what it'll pop in my brain, maybe. But the rest of the Bible, as it gives more detail about the events on Mount Sinai, adds to the idea that it's given through angels. Okay. Maybe no. I'm thinking about Jacob. I might be thinking about Jacob wrestling God. That might be what I'm thinking about. I'm sorry. My gears are still running in my brain. There is a passage of the Old Testament, and maybe it is Jacob wrestling with God. That may be okay. Now I got to go. No, I'm not. But check your center column references when the Jacob's ladder. Go back to Jacob's ladder when he's wrestling with God, and check one of the minor prophets. I think it says angels there. Okay, check that one on me, because that might be the verse that's in my brain right now. That makes more sense. I still can't give you the text for that one. I think it's the right hand page, left hand column. towards the bottom. No. No. It's left-hand page, right-hand column in the middle. I just don't remember what Bible it's in. I'm sorry. I'm done. I am done with that unless y'all find it for me. But I'm pretty sure that's the verse I'm thinking of. But back to our point here. Here's what Paul is doing. Paul is doing here essentially what the Hebrews writer is doing over here. Okay? Hebrews chapter 1, guess what the Hebrews writer is arguing all through chapter 1. Okay? Starts by saying, in the last days he's spoken unto us by his Son. He, the Son, is the heir of all things, by whom he also created the world. Okay? And then he starts asking, to which of the angels did God ever say? All right? Again, he says this to the firstborn that he brings into the world, but of the angels he says this. Okay? And then we'll go through that. To the Son he says, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. But to the angels he says, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Or has he ever said that, rather? Excuse me. It is, he says, are they not just ministering spirits sent out to serve, and so on. The point the Hebrews writer is making all through chapter 1 is Jesus is higher than the angels. Okay? And then he then turns and he says, well, we must pay closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it, because it was said by Jesus, not by angels. Okay, now, you need to pay attention to what angels say, because he says in verse 2, for since the message declared by angels proved to be reliable, and every transgression or disobedience received a just retribution, that was from the doctrine said by angels, which would be the law of Moses. Okay, he then says, how shall we escape if we neglect such a great salvation, said by, it was declared first by the Lord, by Jesus. Okay, the argument is from the lesser to the greater. Angels, if the angel said it, you probably should listen to that. You got to listen to that. Okay, but this wasn't said by angels. This was said at first by the Lord, and then by those who were his witnesses and so on. It was said by the Lord, and it was borne witness to by the Holy Spirit. See the construct? Lesser, you better not, and the Jews would have known that when you disobeyed the law that the angels had given, every transgression received a just retribution. Again, now just randomly put your finger down in any of the minor prophets and you'd be right. Okay? There you go. All right? That'd be the case. There you go. Okay? They would know that. Their history would show that. Okay, go back to the passages we were just in Exodus and so on. Start there. They had already seen this. Don't disobey the law of angels. Okay, obviously it's the law of Moses, law of God, but here, delivered by angels. Point is, the law, the gospel given by Jesus, you absolutely better not neglect that. Now, in the book of Hebrews, not directly about the Judaizers, although, as I said, I think on Tuesday, I think the Judaizers would fit in here, but that's not actually what's happening. In the book of Hebrews, Hebrew Christians are in danger of going back straight to Judaism. Not just becoming Judaizers for Christianity, they are about to deny that the promises that the tribulation would come within the lifetime of this generation, which was about to end, because we're pushing AD 70 right here. Okay, they were about to turn and go back and join into the rebellion of Israel versus Rome, because they thought Israel was right and Jesus was wrong. And the Hebrews writer says, now, wait a minute. We need to pay a much closer attention to what Jesus said. That's the argument. Lesser to the greater. And in his case, all of the people, all of the Hebrews, Christian or not Christian, all of the Hebrews of AD, let's call it AD 68 when Hebrews is written. Okay? Every single one of them would have still believed in the legitimacy of the law of Moses. It was their history for 1,500 years. Okay? That's what they would have thought with it. So since you believe that, you really need to believe the gospel. All right? That's the construct in Hebrews. That's the same thing he's doing here. All right? That's the point of it was put in place through angels. That's the point. Now, he then says, by angels, through angels, by an intermediary. All right. Now you got two options here. Two options. All right. You can say that it was put in place through angels by an intermediary, in which case then effectively he is saying the angels are an intermediary, which would be true. Okay. Or you could say that it was put in place through angels, and then the intermediary, who actually was the vehicle that God used to put that law in place, perhaps would be Moses. Okay, those are the two. Actually, let me check. As I said, as I do every week or every class, I have not read this commentary ahead. I want to see what he says here. I want to see what he does with it. He says, while God made promises to Abraham directly, the law was established by a mediator. This commentary uses the NIV as its translation. I'm not sure which edition of the NIV text it uses, but when you see that text highlighted in black like that in this commentary set, that's a quotation should be from the NIV. So I'm pretty sure here the NIV uses the term mediator instead of intermediary. Okay. And this guy says there are in fact two mediators, the angels representing God and Moses representing the people. So he would say through angels and then by an intermediary. Sounds like he's going angels and then to Moses. Okay, that's fine. Now, which is it? Is it angels twice and the angels themselves are the intermediary, or is it Moses? I'm pretty sure. I think. I want to double check that I'm right about something. Yeah. ESV translates that in the singular, and it is singular. So I would lean toward the idea that it was put in place through angels by an intermediary, and that would be Moses. But I don't know. And I don't know that, because either works, because he's making the same point, and both are true. Okay. Angels were there. They are the intermediary between God and man on some level. But then obviously Moses is there, and he's also effectively the intermediary between God and man. Okay, either one works. All right. Now, what is the point? Here's one reason I would lean toward Moses. Okay, because of what he says in verse 20. Now, an intermediary implies more than one. Okay. Tammy says, yes, the NIV uses mediator and also refers that the mediator was Moses. There you go. Thank you, Tammy. Appreciate you looking that up for me. There you go. Okay. That's that, and I would lean with that. Now, I don't know that it necessitates that it be Moses, but I think it probably is, because let me say it this way. I don't say that because of the construct here, other than the fact the only construct I have here is angels is plural. It's angels, and the word intermediary is singular, which Moses would be singular. Now, you could take the group of angels collectively as a singular intermediary. That would work logically. It would even work linguistically. You can do that. Or grammatically, you can do that. But I would lean toward the other then, especially based upon what follows, because now an intermediary implies more than one. Okay. Law of Moses was made for whom? Well, the law of Moses is made obviously for the Jews, for the nation of Israel. That was who was at Mount Sinai, and that's who received it. Okay. The whole point of Paul's argument here is the inclusion of the Gentiles. The very fact that God used an intermediary, I'm going to go with Moses. The very fact that he did it, or if it's angels, see, this is why I don't think it matters all that much in terms of the exposition, because guess what? If it's done by angels, well, they're speaking on the behalf of God, but they are not actually God saying it. That's the same argument as Hebrews 2. The angels did what was right. Obviously, the angels are not going to do what's wrong. They're going to do what's right. They did exactly what God wanted. However, the gospel came directly from the Son of God. No angels involved. Okay? He said it first. Effectively, that's the same argument that's being made here. The very idea that the law was given through the intermediary of angels / Moses suggests that there's another page on in the book. Okay, and that's how Paul states it. He says, but God is one. Okay, now I see Tammy put Deuteronomy 6:4 up earlier. I don't remember what I said exactly. That may when I was searching for that passage. But Deuteronomy 6:4 is a good passage to think about here, because that's effectively what Israel is told about the nature of God. Okay, do go back and read Deuteronomy 6 on it. So that's a good passage to have here. But check this. Okay. And by the way, I don't know if I've said this. I don't know if I say this enough. I do this on purpose, because this goes back to our first 20 minutes where I was telling you how to be a good Bible student. Okay. I do this on purpose. I grab all of these center column references. And Logos doesn't do anything here on the biblical text. Okay. The like that, yeah, if you see the letters or not, but they're letters in the ESV. Some translations do that differently, but in the ESV versions I've used, they're letters. You can have numbers or other symbols, but letters, G, H. Okay. That's just the editors of the ESV putting together a list of cross references for you to check on. All right. Which, by the way, if you want a Bible with cross references, to this day, I haven't found one better than the Thompson chain reference. Okay. Now it is denominational. Every now and again, you do get some salvation issues that aren't as good. But if I don't like study Bibles. Off topic again, I don't like study Bibles. There's one that I like, the Apologetic Express. Do I have that in here? I used to have no, I don't anymore because we used it. Okay. The Apologetic Express Study Bible is excellent. But as a tool, I don't like, as a daily Bible using tool, I don't like study Bibles, because by the time you get done, there's a big note on the bottom of the page and like 4 words of the Bible text on the top of the page, and your Bibles end up being about that thick. I don't like them. But when I was in school, when I started at the Memphis School of Preaching, the Bible that I took there to begin with was a Thompson chain reference. And the thing it does better than any other study Bible I've ever used is it has a numbered list of chain references that you can go through. There's a couple. Hold on just a second. Since I'm off topic, I'm going to be off topic for a minute. Hold on. Yeah, here she is. She's been around for a while. She's been around for a while. She's gone through some hard times. But this was my Bible I started with when I was at the Memphis School of Preaching. Okay. And there's no way you're gonna be able to see it. It's too much light. But its center column references are actually over here on the side, and they're numbered. Okay. And it'll take you to a number, and then when you flip to the back of the book, back of your Bible, all of this here on the back page is the center column reference. So not only can you find the reference from the verse that you're on under that topic, and let me see how many they have. I can't read this anymore, by the way. This text is way too small for me. It has at least the version. Now, this version's about 30 years old. I'm assuming that Thompson's still in print. I don't even know if it's still in print. It has of just the standard basic center column references you need to go through. It has where'd it go? I just had it. There it is. It has 4,129. And it makes it such a useful tool. But notice what it doesn't do. It doesn't take up all your page. you still get a full Bible text all the way down your page. So you get some of the tools of a study Bible without, first of all, without the commentary. A lot of buying a study Bible, buy the Apologetics Press Study Bible. It's the best. Okay. If that's what you want, buy that one. You can trust it. It's going to be doctrinally sound, and you're going to have all kind of good apologetic stuff in it. But this is still just a regular sized Bible. Okay. And you can carry it around. And when you're preaching from it, you could, well, if my eyes could still read it, you could actually preach from it. You could use it. But you have at your fingertip, and you have, you even have the index, which they give you. So they give you the number system, and then they give you the index alphabetical to check all of the different themes that it's giving you. And it does it without commentary. So you don't have to worry about reading some kind of denominational, evangelical, whatever stuff that's messing you up. That's not perfect because it is a denominational commentary at some point. But that's my favorite study tool like that. But I was making the point. Let me get back to my point here. This is again Bible study point. All right. The reason I do this, I don't have my own notes here and stuff when I'm teaching a class like this. If you're at Rockledge and you see me teaching a class not online but in the auditorium downstairs here, okay? The reason I do it this way is because I'm trying to tell you something. 97%. There's my number again. I've used that 3 times now today. 97% of the references that I give you, when your preacher's standing up there and he's giving you all these passages and he sounds really smart, he's pulling up all these verses you hadn't thought about, guess where he's getting them from? Now, hopefully, every now and again, except when he makes a verse up that he can't remember, he's been known to do that. But most of the time, guess where we're getting those references from? They're right there in your Bible. Okay, so if you're just a common, ordinary Bible student, check your center column references, because most of the time they will give you the verses that you need. Now, always be aware that sometimes, depending upon, because the center column references are not part of a translation, okay? There is usually a translational committee, okay? Really, Mercy, sorry there, Mercy. Thompson Chain Reference has an ESV version now. See, I didn't know that. That I did not know. All I had, the one I just brought up was an old King James, because that's what when you go to Memphis School of Preaching, I assume it's still true, you can use the King James and the American Standard. Not the New King James, not the New American Standard. You can use the King James and the American Standard. I assume that's still the rule. I would doubt Memphis has changed that rule. But that's the version I had. I didn't even know each Thompson used the ESV. All right, thank you. But what was my point? Yeah, every now and again you get a verse that's, the point I was making. The center column references don't come from the translational committee. All right? Because there's usually a translational committee that puts together, obviously, a translation, because it's more than one person should do. And frankly, if you ever come across a translation that has been done by one person, in general, run away from that translation, because that person usually doesn't have any checks and balances in their interpretive model. There are some decent books. Hugo McCord had one that's pretty good. But there's some translational works that you need to just run away from. Okay? But usually there's a committee. Now, when that translation committee is done, guess what's got to happen now? That Bible has to be put in print. Now you're into an editorial committee that probably does not have the same, maybe not any of the same people, maybe a representative or something, but usually not the same people. That gets back to the publisher, and the publisher has to print it. Okay? And so depending on how that's getting published and what resource they use, what collection of verses they use to give you your center column references, that can vary. But you would be surprised at how similar center column references are from one Bible to another. Okay? My point is, as I'm again off topic, just talking about Bible study today. Okay? Use them. It is not a sign of Bible study weakness or anything like that when you use those as center column references. In fact, For those of you who are at Rockledge, you've already seen this, or if you watch the Rockledge YouTube channels, you've seen me doing this on Wednesday night. Because here at Rockledge for the last 6 months or so, we've been studying through the book of Revelation together. Okay. Now I've got, particularly in chapter 1, I've got several little notes that I put in there to get with people. Let me scroll down here a little bit as we get into the text farther. Okay. There you go. Okay. Now I underlined some of those because I wanted to make a point because I was teaching a class. But notice highlighted green, 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 pink, pink. I have a system for that. I told the class that. All right. But notice that. Okay. I told them over and again as I was studying this class, studying Revelation with them. All through the book, I did this. I just highlighted the center column references. Because there is no book, by the way, in the Bible that uses the Old Testament more than, at least in the New Testament, that uses the Old Testament more than Revelation does. But nearly every reference you need, if you have a good Bible, is in your center column references. The reason I'm taking 10 or 15 minutes here to talk about this, because I've heard people talk like that. Because they kind of diminish themselves, kind of insult themselves a little bit. Try and diminish their knowledge of the Bible when they use a center column reference. Okay? I use them all the time. Okay? I use them all the time. Because when let me come across this phrase, God is one. Okay? I can get you Deuteronomy 6, because that's one of those verses you've got memorized. Where else in the writing of Paul do you come across that phrase? Now, I know because we just studied it on Tuesday. But I'll tell you this, and if it weren't for the process of teaching this class, would I remember that Paul uses that exact phrase somewhere else? Depends on what day it is. If I'm having a good day, if the brain's working, maybe. But you know the quickest way to get it? Oh, look, Romans 3:30. Click. Since God is one. Right there in Romans 3:30. Okay, I didn't get that because I'm so smart. If you had just asked me outside of teaching this class, again, if it's a good day, maybe I remember it. Okay, but let's go back 3 months before I started teaching this class, and you just ask me, where does Paul say God is one? Would I have been able to tell you both passages? Maybe. Maybe not, though. Okay? And lo and behold, that's why I use them. Okay? Well, number one, I use them because sometimes I can't remember myself. That's number one. But number two, use them. It is not a sign of your biblical weakness. Now, I guess it could be. If the fact is you haven't ever read your Bible, that might be the case. Okay? But it is not a sign of your biblical weakness when you need to rely on the tools that are in your Bible. Use them. They're there for a reason. Okay? They're helpful. They are not inspired. They are not part of the translation. They're not in the original text. This is the collection of resources that other Bible students throughout time, we had up I think I closed it, didn't I? Yeah, I closed it. We had the eSword thing up. And one of the free resources was the Treasure of Scripture Knowledge, TSK, I think is the name of it. The Treasury of Scripture Knowledge or something like that. Guess what that is? It's one of the free resources in eSword. It is a really long, it's kind of like the Thompson chain reference. It is a very thorough center column reference, cross-reference guide. It's got some other stuff in it too, but that's what it does. Okay? Use them. Okay, they're there for a reason. Don't take them as inspired. They could be wrong, but use them. All right, now back to our point. Let's make the point then that we need to make here. What Paul is doing is, through an intermediary, or by saying it was given by an intermediary, he is effectively diminishing the place of the law of Moses in connection to the gospel. The Judaizers, again, what's your other option? The Judaizers are trying to do just the opposite. The Judaizers are trying to raise it. We talked about it on Tuesday. The Judaizers would not teach that Jesus fulfilled the law. That's what Jesus said in Matthew 5, Sermon on the Mount. But the Judaizers would teach that the law fulfilled Jesus. See, that's the point. They, at the very least, they would put them on the same level. I'm not sure they would, though. If you actually pulled a Jew aside of that first century, I'm not sure he wouldn't elevate Moses and his law and his Jewish heritage over Jesus. That'd be an interesting discussion on the day. Paul is doing just the opposite. All right. Now he says here at the end, but God is one. What's the point? Well, check your center column references and let's go back to Romans 3:30. Let's make sure we understand the point. First of all, notice that once again, Galatians 3 is connected to Romans 3 and 4. It's the same topic. There's no difference. Strangely, though, Romans 3, it's about, in fact, let me do it. Let me do it before I go over there. Let's see. Let's go to our commentary set. Does he make reference to it? Okay. 3:19, an indignant Judaizer. He references the Judaizers there. He does not specifically mention the Judaizers down here in verses 20 and 21. I think that's interesting. He doesn't. But at least the commentator that we've been following along as the contrary, the evangelical view that I'm trying to get you to see, he at least acknowledges the Judaizers are present there in verse 19. Okay, which he's got that part right. Okay, so same argument here. God is one. That's his conclusion. That's 3:30. Okay, from Romans. Let's go over here to Romans 3:30. Okay. We got the Gentiles, Jews only, also the Gentiles. I'm gonna just say it out loud. This guy is not gonna mention the Judaizers in Romans 3. The Jews in general. That might get you close. I'm just scrolling through here to see if the word Judaizer or anything like it comes up. Jewish distinctiveness. Except for a few Jews, proselyte Gentiles who joined with Judaism. Just read through all of this. I'm scanning. I'm not reading it out loud, the whole thing, because I'm pretty confident it's not going to be there. Okay? No, not there at all. It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if we went all the way through this entire comment. This is a different author, by the way. It's a commentary set. Each Bible book has a different commentary author. Okay, this one is John Whitmer. I wouldn't be surprised you could read the entire book of Revelation or entire book of Romans and him never make reference to Judaistic theology. He might. It's possible. There are a few places he might. Romans 3 would be a really good place to do it. But it would not surprise me one bit if this guy studies Romans and never mentions Judaistic theology. Now, he may mention the prominence of Jews, which he does here, but not the Judaizers. Strange, considering that in Galatians, when Paul makes the argument, since God is one, that's specifically the argument that he's making. And the commentators get it right in Galatians. Lo and behold, they get to Romans, and they don't want to make it about Judaism or Judaizers. You know why? Because if you allow Romans and Galatians actually both to be talking about the Judaizers, you're really going to undermine your doctrinal basis of Romans 7 and Romans 8. That's why. Okay, I didn't connect these two passages. I was using center column references, right? Some editorial committee, probably evangelical, coming out of Crossway. The ESV is printed by Crossway. That's a pretty evangelical compliant group. Okay. They did that. They approved it and put it in that text, not me. So they know it's the same thing. But lo and behold, when they interpret it, it's not. Okay, get the point. God is one. What's the point? Well, he's not a God of the Jews only, but he's also a God of the Gentiles. That's the entire point of Romans and Galatians. That's it. God is one. And so since the Old Testament law came through angels by an intermediary, and it included only the Jews, we got a problem. And the problem we have is that in order to save the Gentiles, we got to come up with something. God is one. Okay? It's not two different systems here. It's not two different. It's not a promise and then the law somehow, well, to get to verse 21, the law is not contrary to the promises of God. Okay, God is one. This was part of a main plan. This all is tied together. But the way the Judaizers are tying this denies that. And it denies that by denying the salvation of the Gentiles apart from Judaism. That's the problem. Okay, and we'll get there in verse 21 here in a second. I got a comment there from David. Let me read it here together. Jonathan, I like I like the program and the teaching, but after 2 hours, it seems like an overload. You get what I'm saying. I think I kind of get lost after a while. You're not wrong there, David. Yep. I get that, and there is a lot of it. You are correct, sir. But I have time. I can do this 2 days a week. And these are 2 days a week. I can't do it on Mondays. I've got other stuff. Obviously, Wednesday's its own problem. My day off out of the office is Friday. The only days I can do it's Tuesday and Thursday, and I want more than an hour. So watch an hour, turn it off, then catch the next hour the next day. Do something like that. But yeah. And it's also, I'll tell you what part of it is, David, is what I talked about in the introduction of the class this morning. Yeah, I'm trying to cover Galatians with you. I'm trying to work the way through the book. But as I've gone off path about 3 or 4 times already today, and that's kind of was on my brain when I started the class this morning. I just wanted to say it. I'll say it again here. I am more concerned about how about you all learning to study your Bible. Okay, if you get lost in the weeds of something I'm talking about here, okay, that's not great, but that actually doesn't trouble me that much. So long as you get lost on the path, or at least understanding how we're walking down the path. Okay, that's all I'm after. That's not all I'm after, but that's the main thing I'm after. I want you to understand the process. Okay, which is why I just spent 10 minutes or whatever it was just talking about center column references earlier. That's a Bible study tool. Use it. And that's what I'm trying to open up the curtain a little bit for you. Your preacher's not that smart. Okay, guess what he uses? I said, well, earlier today when I said, that's what's left of my print library, and some of that are just some of those books I just kept because my father gave them to me or something of that nature. Like I've got down there on the bottom, I don't think you could see it. Down there on the bottom, I've got an old Vines dictionary. Okay, let me go grab it for a second. This. An old Vines dictionary. Fine dictionary. It's not the most scholarly book you'll ever come across, but it's a good little Bible dictionary. Guess who gave me this? My dad did. One of the first books when I was heading to the Memphis School of Preaching, he gave me probably 20 books or so. It was this one. He also gave me the Strong's Concordance, which is right beside it. You've seen that one before. Okay. Guess why I keep it? Well, because my father gave it to me. That's why I keep it. When was the last time, other than picking it up like that, when was the last time I opened a Vines dictionary? Now, I have Vines dictionary on Logos. So occasionally I will get I think I have Vines. I have Vines. Occasionally I'll get a use for it, but I don't use it. Okay. You walk into your preacher's office and it's got books everywhere. So you walk into my dad's office. Oh, have mercy. Because he spent all of his time up until recently as a gospel preacher, and had 60 some odd years of it now. He's got a collection of books. I mean, David Kaufman, if you're still out there, I'm going to need your help here. Hopefully a few years from now, but I've got a library of Bible books that are about to cut. I know whose job it's going to be when my dad passes to go through that library. It's gonna be mine. I got 3 brothers and sisters. I'm the only preacher. I'm pretty sure that library is gonna fall into my lap. Have mercy. Of course, my dad's been at Palm Beach Lakes for 50 some odd years now. They built that building. I've been married 36 years, so the building they're in has been there 40 years. Okay, so he's been in his office for 40 years. And if you've ever been to my dad's office, if any of y'all from down that area, we do have some Palm Beach Lakes viewers occasionally on digital Bible study. If you've ever been in his office, I mean, it is floor to ceiling in at least a 20 by 20 room. Floor to ceiling around 3 of his walls. Shelves. Now, some of them do have the bookcase on the bottom, but even that, open it up. Guess what's in the bookcase? Books. They go all the way around the room. And it's not an 8-foot ceiling. It's a extended ceiling. I don't know how high it is, but it's tall ceiling. His books are stacked 2 deep. 2 deep. Most of the way around that room. I mean, he's got hundreds. I don't even know. It's a good library. Let me ask you something. 40 years ago, when he moved into that office, he put all of his books up on those shelves. Would you like to know how many of those books have not moved in 40 years? The books he actually uses are on his desk. The rest of them, they're decorations. I mean, it's hundreds of volumes and they sit up on the shelves doing nothing. I mean, he might pull down that one every now and again. That's what I'm trying to get you to. I am much more concerned about you learning the truth about Bible study. Okay? You got a good and who said it this morning? Who was it this morning? I asked the question. Was it Arlene or Mercy? Who was it? It was Arlene. Okay, right there. What Bible program do you use? There you go. Let me say it to you this way. I bring that back up again for you. Right there. Free. Comes with a very simple list of books and so on. Okay? Right there. If that's all that I had to study my Bible, if that's all that I had, let me download. I think I have to pay. I don't remember. No. I bet it might be free. I bet the ESV might be free. I'd have to check. But let me have the ESV because that's the translation I use right there. Okay, it comes with Strong's numbers, comes with the Strong's dictionary. As I've been teaching this class, I have been putting up on the screen for you once or twice a day, usually an interlinear. That would be nice if I had that. Which again, you can buy for eSword. I think you have to buy it. I don't remember. But let me do that. Okay. Guess how much it would hinder me as a Bible student? As I said when we talked about Logos, over the 15 years, I've expanded. Every time they put on a sale, I've bought. I don't even know. I don't want to know, but it's got to be somewhere in the low thousands would be my guess over 15 years. I mean, if it's $100 a year, if it's $200 a year, it's $3,000. Let's go with that. On some level, I've wasted about $2,800 because that hasn't helped me as a Bible student at all. Okay. I mean, hold on. Right here. Strong's Concordance. My dad gave me this. When I started preaching 30 some odd years ago, my dad gave me this. As part of that, he gave me a Vines and he gave me a Strong's. Okay. He also gave me a Cruden's Complete Concordance. Do I have my Cruden's? Did I keep my dad's Cruden's? Hold on. No, I lost it. No. Now I'm sad. I thought I still had that. Nope, I think I lost it. My dad gave me a Cruden's Complete Concordance. I can't believe I lost that concordance. Oh man, no, I'm having a moment, guys. I'm a little sad. But right here, okay. I'll tell you this: if I were stuck on one of those proverbial desert islands, all right. Since I'm doing this, let me go back over here to the screen for a second. If I were stuck on a desert island somewhere, and I had my Bible, and somebody told me you could have one other book, that. And if you want to be a good Bible student, learn how to use one of these. Learn how to use a Strong's Concordance. Okay, there is no better single tool. I mean, Kaufman, I saw you said Kaufman, you're still here. Do you know the publication date, Kaufman, on the original publication date of Strong's? Does it start with an 18? I bet the original publication date of Strong's goes back to the 1800s. Okay, there has been no better Bible study tool ever made than a Strong's Concordance. And if you know how to use one of these, now, thankfully, if you are someone, did I still bring that up? Oh, stink, I closed it again. I got to stop closing things since I'm off topic and we're not actually studying Galatians today. That's all right. I'm good with that. Okay. Here's your e-sword again. Okay. Features. That's not features I want. No features I want. There you go. Strong's tool tips. Guess what comes free? Guess what comes for free in e-sword? Strong's. For free. Okay. You need to know how to use it. And if you ever, let me show you this. Let me turn on my interlinear again. You see all these numbers down here? You see all these numbers? Okay, this is in my interlinear. Okay, Kaufman says 1890. Original publication date for Strong's, 1890. James Strong, if I'm not mistaken, put it together. Work of a singular man, I think. I don't think there was a committee. I think James did it by himself, if I remember correctly. If I remember the history, correct me if I'm wrong on that, David, but I think that's right. But you see this in my interlinear. You see how when I highlight over a number, it pulls up the Greek? Okay? Those are Strong's numbers. When you open up your Strong's Concordance, if you've never used one, I'm sorry I'm going off topic here again, guys. Sorry. Okay? No way you'll see it because there's not enough room on the screen. You won't see it. And I can't zoom my camera in that tight, I don't think. But when you open up a Strong's, okay, I don't know if you can see any of that or not on the screen. Probably it's too much light. I don't think you'll be able to see it with that white text. But you get your concordance, you get your reference. Yeah, there's no way you're going to see it. But at the end of every line, he will give you a number. And that number will tell you what Greek word is in the back. Okay? So in an English translation, if you look up a word, now that I've got one open, let me see what I got here. Okay? What am I looking at? Israel. I'm looking at Israel. That's not one I need to be looking at. Israel's going to appear way too much. I need let me give you a good, how about, I'm looking up the word here, purification. There's no way you'll see it, purification. But it comes from Strong's number 2403, 2893, 8562, and then looks like 20, I can't read that, 2512, and 49. Okay? But what he just told me is that in the King James, this was based on, the word purification has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different Greek and Hebrew words that are translated purification in the English. And then, lo and behold, since he's giving me the number, and by the way, I can go back here into the back, at the very back of the Strong's, I have both a Hebrew lexicon and I think and then I have a Greek dictionary, Greek lexicon for every single word. Now, it's not considered the most scholarly, but it is reliable. So what I have in my Strong's Concordance, if you've never used one, is I have every single occurrence of words in the English Bible. Okay, it's the King James that it's translated on. I then get a Strong's number for every Hebrew and Greek word. And it can tell you exactly how many different words are used to do that. Now, it's in the back, isn't it? It's been a long time since I used these. You can also go the other direction, can't you? Does my edition have it? I think it does. You should be able to do it the other way around too. Where you can look up. No, this is all of the small words, the as and the is and the me's. There's a chart somewhere. Maybe my edition may not have it. But there's another chart somewhere that you can do it, because you can do it the other direction around, at least in a lot of tools. You can pick out a Strong's number, and it will tell you every English word that number occurs from, so that you can find out if you're looking up the word apoluo, which is the Greek word put away. I think that's, I don't want to remember the number, but apoluo. Okay. Actually, I can tell you the number. Let me tell you the number. I'm way off topic today, aren't I? That's all right. TGT man shall put away his wife. Where's verse 9? Oh, you can't see that because I changed text there, didn't I? Okay. 630? Okay, it's 630. Okay. Translated divorce in the ESV, it's Strong's number 630. Now, basically you can do it the other direction around. You can find out every time that is found. Now, what I just have here now, you can't see my heading here, but this is what I just clicked on, is the New American Standard Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek Dictionary. So this is a resource that's in my library. And look how they have their words numbered. They're using Strong's numbers to find you the Greek word that you're looking for. Not every, but a huge portion of all of your Bible tools and Bible resources and so on are done like that. Okay? Your preacher, who seems so smart, who knows all this stuff, doesn't. All we know is how to use a few tools. And they're not hard. Okay? This is the big, thick book. It's heavy. It's got a lot of stuff, and the print's too small for me to read it now. But nearly every Bible resource I have is now based upon the structure that Strong's built. Okay? And made it too big, didn't I? And for free, you can get Strong's with the dictionaries, with all the references, all of it. That's free. Okay? And I think all of that is correct. Okay? So, way off topic again. Sorry for another divergence from our class. But I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry for that. I'm not at all. If I'm helping you at all, what I'm trying to do hopefully today is encourage you to be thorough Bible students, okay? Because it's so easy. It is so ridiculous. Oh, sorry. Where is it? Should be here. It is so ridiculously easy to be a diligent, thorough, capable Bible student. You don't guess how long it has been since I studied Greek. Okay, I went to Memphis School of Preaching. We had 2 years worth of Greek, so 8 quarters.
Okay. Went to Freed Hardeman. I think I had 1 semester of Greek because I had a different Bible degree. I think it was 1 semester of Greek there. I'm no Greek scholar. As I heard my dad say one time, first time, he was actually talking about a preacher student of his, not of his, but is a preacher student who went to school of preaching from Palm Beach Lakes. I think it was Palm Beach Lakes. And I heard him say about that guy one time, I'm not going to tell you who, because my dad told you I was saying this out loud, and giving it to him, I'd probably be in trouble. But he said about this young Bible student, he said, that man knows enough Greek to make him dangerous. I'm that character. I know enough Greek to make me dangerous. Okay? Because I haven't studied Greek 30 years. Now, somewhere in that stack over there, is it over there? Nope, it's over there. It's on the bookcase you can't see. Okay? It's over there. It is my Greek text I use at the Memphis School of Preaching. The binding on it is still perfectly good. That book has been sitting on that shelf for 30 some odd years now. Not that shelf, but on my shelves for some 30 odd years. And I'll confess, the first couple of years I left Memphis, because I didn't have good computer programs and stuff, guess what I pulled out every now and again? I pulled out my Greek text every now and again. I don't even remember which edition of the Nestle Alonza text that is. I'm not even sure what edition we're on now. I want to say that's somewhere in the mid 20s, low 20s. Call it 22. Somebody look it up for me. Tell me what is if Kaufman, if you're still there, you would know how to do it. Google it for me real quick. What is the current edition of the? I don't think it's United Bible Study. I think that's the same thing effectively, but I think that's a Nestle Alon text. Okay. My point being though, that text is not even the current text, and it's the only Greek text I have. It's the only one I've got. Well, I've got it on Logos, but I hadn't. I was still trying to act like I was a Greek student after I graduated Memphis and did some stuff at Freed. It would come off my shelf every now and again. But guess the last time I read it. If you put it in front of me right now and told me to read it, I used to be able to. I could read that text to you. Absolutely. Guess what I could do now? Maybe find some root words. And part of that would be because I would know where I am in the Bible and I am in the New Testament. Okay. Maybe part of that would be some of it, but nothing. Okay. Almost nothing. And unless, okay, Nessalon 28. Okay, that'd be about right. Because I want to say it's 22 came out. I think that one I have is 22. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's 22. So I'm 6-7 versions behind. Okay. You don't need it. You don't need it. And unless you have a complete academic preacher, I can as one of my almost guarantee stickers. Unless you have one of those, he's not reading his Greek text either. Now, I have come across a couple. I have come across some people studying their Bibles or is preaching. I have actually come across guys that actually preach using a Greek text. Those guys exist. Inside Churches of Christ, those guys exist. Okay? I will let you know when I come across one of those guys that's actually a good preacher. Because they've ruined themselves. At least in terms of standing in front of an audience and teaching the Bible and preaching it from the pulpit, they've effectively ruined themselves. Because when you're that obsessed with Greek, sooner or later it's going to come out in your sermon. It has to. You don't devote that much of your life to doing something that well without it influencing what comes out of your mouth. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Okay, it's going to. It's one reason I stopped with a bachelor's degree in Bible. Well, first of all, I'd gone to Memphis, so I had that in the background, and then I finished up at Freed. Only took me 10 years to finish up at Freed. But the reason I didn't go on and get my master's and a doctorate is not because I lack the ability, because I didn't want to. Because I know what you have to start reading. Even back then in my 20s, I knew what you had to start reading. Critical commentaries, frankly, a lot of European, German stuff, which gets you back into different portions of the Protestant movement. And the best preachers I know, now there's some really good preachers that have advanced degrees. There are. But like my dad, I think my dad is one of the best pulpit guys I've ever heard. And he is absolutely, if not the best, one of the best Bible students I've ever come across. He's excellent. Do you know what his degree is in? I think it's in speech. It's either speech or communications. His degree is not actually in Bible. I think he has a Bible minor. He told me once why that happened. I don't remember exactly why it happened. I think it may have been because back then Freed was a 2-year school and he finished up at Lipscomb. And for some reason, I think he finished his degree at Lipscomb in speech. Okay, that's not bad as a preacher, by the way. But his degree is not even in Bible. All right? He's not an academic. Now, most of you who would be watching this have heard my dad preach. Some of you haven't heard him preach until he got into his mid-80s. You at Rockledge just heard him about a month ago when I was out of town. At 85, be 86. It's 2025. He'll turn 86 here next month. 2 months. Ask my dad. Y'all who are around, ask my dad the last time he picked up a Greek text. Go ahead. I would say never. I mean, not never, but I mean, he doesn't. Why would he? Why would he do that? Best Bible student I've ever come across. Framed me as a Bible student. Take that for what it's worth. Give him a Strong's dictionary, give him a Strong's concordance, and there is not a thing that he would need more to be the kind of preacher that he is today. That's what I'm trying to get you to. That is what I want you to get out of this study, and every time that we're together, that is what I'm after you to get. Okay? Learn how to study your Bible, and please do not be intimidated by it. You hear me say a lot. Haven't said it today. I can't remember the last time I said it on this class. But you will hear me say versions of this a lot. Okay? The Bible's not trying to trick you. It's trying to explain itself to you. Okay? Here's my Bible, the one I currently use as my prop, because I am almost all electronic these days. That's why this Bible is now a couple of years old, and it doesn't have a scratch on it. I don't think I've written a single note anywhere in here. Okay, I don't think, because it's my prop that I carry in the pulpit to let people know I have a Bible, and I don't even do that every week. It sits here on my desk, and I need it sometimes as a prop. Okay, there it is. Okay, but you know what it has? It has a front cover, and it has a back cover. This is it. Okay, and this one's even not giant print, but it's at least large print, right? Large print. Large print with it's not a big margin. It's slightly large margin. It's not a full wide margin. It's at least a partial wide margin. Okay, there it is. And that's how thick it is. Okay, it'll sit right there on your desk real nice and pretty. That's why we can do a daily Bible reading and get it done in a year. And frankly, if it were a novel and we were really obsessed with it, we wouldn't take a year to read through that book. We'd have it done in a week or two, maybe a month. And when you've read it, you have read every word that God ever said on every spiritual topic. It's not trying to trick you. It's trying to explain itself to you. And that's why I went off on this tangent about just using the center column references. Because every piece of information you need about, let's go back to our text. Okay, let's pretend we're studying Galatians today. Okay? Every piece of text you need about God is one. Okay? Particularly in the writings of Paul. By clicking on that center column reference, guess what I just got? I got everything the Apostle Paul, by inspiration, ever said that was meant to be recorded anyway. We know he wrote a letter to Laodicea and some other stuff, but by way of inspiration, it's right there. That's it. Okay? You have it. Nobody has information you don't have. It's just right there. Okay? You would be, maybe not, some of you wouldn't be, because the way I've talked about it today. Let me tell you, when was the last time I read a religious book, cover to cover, other than my Bible? When was the last time I read a religious book, cover to cover? By the way, I think I just found my Cruden's Concordance. It's over there. I'm genuinely trying to think of that. The last time I read a religious book, cover to cover. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm genuinely trying to think about that right now. Eric wrote a book. Did I finish that one? Eric sent me a copy of his last book that he wrote. I probably finished that one. I can't remember the name of it though. Wait, hold on. Do I have that over here on my shelf? For those who don't know, Eric is, other than my wife, Eric's my best friend. I should really know the books that Eric has written. I really should. There's some of our writings right there. I don't have Eric's book over here. I don't know what I did with it. Maybe it's over there somewhere. I probably finished Eric's book. That would have been since 2 or 3 years ago. Now, I read stuff. I mean, I use Logos. Guess what happened? I've got that commentary set. I pull up. We use that. Okay. But get it. Please understand what I'm trying to get you to see today. Okay, I'm not even going to try to get back to Galatians today. In fact, David, I'm gonna wrap it up early today. How about that? There you go, David. I'm gonna wrap it up early. Now, it wasn't getting to know God, Mercy, although Eric wrote several books in that series, and those are good books. It was after that. It was about the promises of God. It was about something about the promises of God. It's a good book, by the way. It is worth a read. I'm not saying they're not worth a read. I'm not a huge reader, by the way. My problem with reading, particularly religious books, is that I get 10 pages, 15 pages into your book, and as soon as I think I know the point that you're making, I'm pretty well done with it. I don't read devotional books ever. I never read devotional books. If I'm doing anything devotional like that, it's fiction stuff. And then I don't even read. I typically do audio books, and I listen to those at like 1.5 speed or faster, because it's even when we do our daily Bible reading around here, I have my screen open and I'm watching the screen, but I'm actually listening to a daily Bible reading that I listen to at 1.4 speed, because I can't be trusted. My brain doesn't work like that. You've seen me study, right? Something pops into my brain and lo and behold, I'm off doing something else. I can't do it. So I get 10 or 15, 20 pages, whatever it is, into your book, and I think I've got the point. I put it down. It's not that the book's not good. My book might be great, but I'm done with it. Okay, so I do not ever ask me for that kind of stuff. That's not how I do it. My brain doesn't work that way. Okay. What's the name of the latest one, please? Hold on, give me a second here. Give me a second. I think I can find it. Give me a second. Hold on. I need my glasses. I gotta type stuff in. Used to have a website. That's what I was looking for. There's Eric L. Owens. There it is. Oh, that's not his latest book. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry, Mercy. Hold on, I got it wrong. Let me bring that back up for you. I just found I did it on Amazon. Hold on. I don't remember where his own personal website is. His daughter did it for him, so it may have changed. But I haven't read this one. My Faith Journey Getting to Know God. That came out in 2023. I haven't read that. Hope he didn't send it to me because I don't remember reading that one. It's got 45 reviews, so quite a few people have read it. Okay, there you go. The one I was talking about was this one, and that's from 2019. The Greatest Question Ever Asked. That's the one I was talking about. Okay, and again, good book. But see, that only has 3 reviews. Oh, that one. I'll tell you what that is. He printed that one before I think he did that before he started working out there in Round Hill, Texas. That's a large congregation. I wonder how many of those come from of these come from the 700 members at Round Hill. That'd be my guess. But get that's the one I was talking about was that one. So, and it is Eric's. If I'm listing great Bible students, I'd throw Eric into that list. Eric is an exceptional Bible student, but I can tell you this one, I can pretty much tell you the last time Eric Owens picked up a Greek text. Probably the last day we were at the Memphis School of Preaching. If Eric picked up a Greek text after we graduated Memphis, it's because somebody made him do it somehow. Some of y'all know him. Ask him the last time he picked up a Greek text. Tell him I was asking. Tell him I started the question. You go ahead. I'd love to know that. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I'll just go ahead and wrap it in. Drive a peg in. I didn't get as far as I wanted to into Galatians today, but I got off topic, and that happens. Okay. I'd apologize, but I think we at least covered good material. So see if I missed any comments that I need to get to. Arlene and David both say James Strong is correct, and I think it is James, and I think that's, again, by himself. I think Mercy, what'd you say here, Mercy? Informative as well as instructional, never a bad thing. Of all your Bible study tools and Bible study resources, informative. Okay, good, Mercy. David. Logos eSword great tools, but nothing like as intimate and as personable as a printed book. You're right there, David. I'll say this. I will say this at least. I still do it in my brain. You'll hear me do it every now and again when I'm trying to remember a verse. Oh, left-hand page, right-hand column. I know when I say it, I know it's not this book. Okay? Yeah, I can guarantee you it's not this book. What it is, it's either this Thompson Jane reference, or it is in my Cambridge wide margin, because I used this for like the first year I was at Memphis. And then somewhere into the first year, I think it was toward the end of my first year, I didn't even see it. It's got to be over there. There's no way that Bible is not over there, but it's not on my desk, is it? Where's my Thompson, my Cambridge wide margin? It's a King James version, Thompson wide. Okay, I don't see that. That I have to go find. I bet it's up there in the corner. It's dark. It's dark up there. I can't find it. Okay, it's in my time. It's one of those because it's pagination, and that's how I remember things, and that's why I have almost no verses memorized out of the ESV, because when I start quoting a Bible verse, my brain sees this or the Cambridge, and my problem is I can't remember which. But and one of the big downsides to using Logos and preaching out of Logos, because when I preach these days, this is what I'm holding. This is my iPad. That's what's in my hand. Okay. But the pagination's never the same. It changes. I mean, if I change the font size, bang, everything just moved. So I have no memorization of anything like that. That is the one thing I absolutely do not like about using Bible programs. Because for most of up until I started this, well, all of my preaching life and for a long time, I did both. I kept using my Bible every single day and just used Logos as a tool. I did that for a lot of years until I finally just gave up and just started using the iPad. And Rockledge is worse because we use Apple TV for our projector, which allows me to use my iPad in ways. If you ever watch me teaching a class on the Rockledge YouTube channel, what you're seeing is my iPad. And I basically, not completely, but I have largely stopped using PowerPoint, and I just leave my Logos text on the screen. It allows me to do things that PowerPoint won't. Okay. But again, there's no memorization. There is no intimate and personable. There isn't. And that is a huge, huge difference. And that I thank you for making that point, David, because that is very important. You do not. I made a life choice, and there are times I wish I didn't, but it's for what I'm trying to do and the way that I teach, it makes the most sense for me to do it this way. But there is an absolute drawback to going to full electronic digital versions of stuff. And there is an experience of turning page by page and hearing those things, particularly in your Bible, hearing it flip and just knowing where it is in your Bible and stuff. You can't do that electronically. It's just not possible. So good point there, David. It seems a lot younger than 86. He does. It is remarkable. Tammy read the Bible through last year. Good deal. Got the one from Mercy. Portals of Manifestation is new. Is that? Did I miss that one? I'll have to go back and look it up, David. That one I don't know either. But sorry, it's over here. Where is it? I don't know how my screen works. It's right there. It is. Okay, I'd have to go look that up. Anyway, I appreciate you being here today. I hope you found something of value today. We didn't do a lot of Bible study. When we get back here on Tuesday, we're going to camp, and I'll try to stay on topic a little bit better because this is really the phrase we need to talk about. Okay. And let me go ahead and give the answer to it today. For if a law had been given that could give life, the question is going to be about, is that actually legitimately true? Is that legitimately true about the law? Is that universally true about the law? The answer to that's going to be no. The evangelicals will say yes. Okay. The answer to it is no, because Paul is writing about the law as it was being taught by the Judaizers. Okay. That's the quick answer to what we should have been talking about today. Okay. So if you can't be here Tuesday live, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be, again, the question, what is the other option? Okay. And then we're going to be going into Romans 3 and then again into Romans 7 to make the point that Paul states, and then Romans 9, that this is not universally true. Okay. The law could give life. How? Through faith. And the point that we'll make, I'm trying to sum this up, which is what we're supposed to cover today. The point that we'll make is we will go back here to our commentary set. And what verse was it? I highlighted it. Okay. Our commentary, the evangelical view, faith and law cannot be combined. it is scripturally impossible. Law and faith are mutually exclusive. Okay? And so they're going to take the point that if a law that could give life, or if a law could give life, that's the law that would have been given. They're going to take that point and make a universal statement about it, and they're wrong. The point is, Paul is dealing with the Judaistic theology that is behind what's going on there in Galatians. Okay? So that's the point we'll make at length on Tuesday. But I enjoyed it today. Thank you all. Good participation. That's probably one of the most discussion-oriented type classes we've had here together. Hope that, hey, David, not David, who was David, right? It was the David S. There it is. Not David C., but David S. I should know this last, David Stambursky. You've been around, David. I should have known that name. I'm sorry. David. Hope that helped you a little bit. Because we didn't do 2 hours of Galatians today. So let your brain rest a little bit. But we will come back and we'll touch on verses 21 and hopefully get through 21 and 22 next time. Let's do that. If I can get through 21 and 22, may even let you out here early if that happens, because I want to take 23 in that next block. Well, actually, probably in a couple of days on it, because there's obviously a detour that we're going to take when we get to verse 27 of chapter. You can't see what I'm highlighting, can you? Because I already turned it off. There's going to be a detour we take from our general study when we get to verse 27. I bet y'all can't imagine what that one will be. But we need to talk about 23 and 24, because that's important to get into chapter 4. Okay. But I want to block that together at least a little bit. So I'd like to get through 21 and 22 on Tuesday, and then next Thursday, let's start working through 24 to 29, 23 to 29. Anyway, I'll stop there, and we will wrap it up for today. Lord willing, we will see you back here, hopefully on Tuesday. And there you go. As always, as we wrap it up today, let me tell you this. It is my prayer that you will go out and make your day a great one for God.